Alright, I just finished a Star Wars book, Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray. Which is one that, since I found out it existed, I really wanted to read, and so I did. I also really love the cover. And okay, so I liked it. I did like it quite a bit. Honestly, I'm always here for more exploration of the Jedi Order, especially pre the movies, basically. Like, if you go back far enough, I don't care anymore, but as long as you're including characters that were in the movies, at least one of the movies, I do care. So this is basically the only good book I've ever read that was about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, because there's just so few to choose from, and all the rest of them are just like this stupid kids series about Obi-Wan's like apprenticeship. They're like not good, but they're kids books, so whatever. But anyway, this is basically about an adventure that Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan have together when Obi-Wan is like 17. So it's like, what's math? 7-ish years before Phantom Menace. And naturally I just had to grab, like, I had to know. And also, like, Claudia Gray has written a couple of other Star Wars books. I read one of them, Bloodlines, which is set before The Force Awakens, and I really liked that one. I actually liked that one even more because I thought her take on Leia was really good. I don't feel like she has quite as strong a grasp on the Jedi, but, like, it's still quite a good book. Though I will say, if you like the Jedi and you want to read some really good fiction about them, Ruth Balding has written some of the best fan fiction I've ever read in my life. It's on fanfiction.net. Check her out. Okay. That's Ruth Balding, like it's a name, and Balding's got a U in it. Anyway, back to this. So, yes. I don't even know what to say about it. Like, it's not amazing. I don't want to go off on, like, every little thing about it that I, that was wonderful and perfect and that I loved. It was fine. Like, it was good. It didn't blow my mind, but it was good. I mean, Qui-Gon did get a couple good little speeches in. The best one probably being when he's explaining to a character, look, it matters what side we choose, but we don't choose the light because we think we're going to win. We choose it because it's the light. Like, there's a original Jedi character in this who I really liked, and he was a lot of fun. Also, this book gets extra points because they had a Jedi use the phrase, get laid, and, I laughed a lot. It was really great. And, I really liked all of the flashback scenes where you got to see Qui-Gon with Dooku, and also with this other character. This character's named Rael Averroes, and basically he's supposed to be Dooku's earlier Jedi apprentice that he trained, and so he and Qui-Gon meet when Qui-Gon is still being trained by Dooku, and Averroes is like, probably in his mid-20s, I guess. And they're kind of friends, but, that was a long time ago, obviously. I really liked seeing those scenes with Dooku, because the fact that Dooku trained Qui-Gon is something that, like, only comes up extremely rarely in any Star Wars stuff, and I'm always just deeply fascinated by it. Like, I want to know more. So, we got some information here, and a lot of it was surrounding the prophecies, so I thought that was interesting too, because, like, I'll be honest, the whole Jedi prophecies thing, like, didn't ever really work for me in the movies, but it's canon, so we gotta work with it, and I thought the way that this book approached kind of how Qui-Gon thinks about these things was interesting. And yeah, that's kind of the notable stuff for me, I felt. I did think that the ending was kind of rushed. Like, the climax, I don't know, I just felt like some of the things that happened in the climax happened too quickly. But, you know, what do I know? There were also other characters, I don't want to get into it, but yeah, you know, it was good, I liked it, I'm glad I read it, blah blah blah, the usual. I would really like to see more books written in this particular era. I think there probably won't be a lot more, but it is kind of my, I guess my favorite eras of Star Wars would be either directly during the Rebellion or during the time of the Jedi before they all got killed. So those are my two particular favorite places to go for Star Wars books, and a fair number of books go there, but a lot of them don't. So that's kind of it. She has written one other. Sorry, Claudia Gray has written one other Star Wars book. Let's see if I can... Where are they fucking listed? I guess they're just back here. Okay. Leia, Princess of Alderaan is the other one. Oh wait, something called Star Wars Lost Stars? I don't know what that is. But Leia, I know our library has, and I do want to read that, because like I said, I liked her take on Leia in Bloodlines. And I think that just Leia, Princess of Alderaan is set earlier. It might even be set before A New Hope. I'm not really sure on that. But I'm interested in reading that. Yeah, you know how it is. Every few months, it's like I kind of want to read a Star Wars book, because they're easy, and it's Star Wars, and I love it. So that's all for now. Today I finished Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. This is a classic, I guess. It's set during World War II, and it's about a bunch of pilots and bombardiers who are on an island off Italy. They're Americans, and it's mostly about a guy named Osirian who doesn't want to die. Like, okay, it's a fun book. It's satirical. It's very, like, dark humor. There is a lot of disturbing stuff in it as well, along with just, like, over-the-top, just, I don't even really know how to explain it. It's surreal, maybe. It's surreal, the conversations that people have, just... half of them are just like one person makes sense and is like, what is wrong with this other person I'm talking to that they are not making any sense, you know? And it's depressing, and it's like really good. I mean, it's a classic. I liked it. It was a little bit hard to follow for maybe the first third or half of it, because it's not told entirely in chronological order. Like, it's not like it's necessarily, how do I put this, there'll just be a lot of parts where the narrative will go and start talking about a person, and be talking about a character, and then they'll be like, oh, and this was like a thing that happened, and then they'll start talking about something that happened, like, I think some months previously, and it's not always completely clear what order things happened in, to me at least. Like, you can tell they're talking about something earlier, because they'll say, like, this was when they only had to fly 50 missions or whatever. So one of the things is this colonel keeps upping the number of missions they need to fly before they can go home, and then when anybody reaches it, he just refuses to send them home. And it's just this like continual torturous, like, attempts by the characters to get sent home, and it's like very anti-war, definitely, in highlighting just the ridiculousness of so much of what's going on. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know why this book specifically I decided to read it, because it was on my Goodreads to read shelf, and it had been there since like 2013, and I don't know why. I must have read a description of it and thought it sounded kind of interesting. But anyway, I finally was like, oh yeah, I guess I should actually fucking listen. I can get, read a copy of Catch-22, because it should be an easy one to actually get on audiobook, so it was. But it was good. Like, it was funny, but also there were some, like, serious gut punch moments, which, like, just increased kind of as the book went on. I really liked how the narrative kept circling back to the death of Snowden. Like, basically, at some point prior to a lot of the events of the book. Right. So, Yossarian is a bombardier, which means that he's in one of those big bomber airplanes where there's like 5 guys in him or whatever, and his job is to actually, like, drop the bombs at the right spot. And Snowden is somebody else in the plane, I don't know, but Snowden gets hit, they get hit with flak, and Snowden, it goes like through Snowden, and so anyway, in the story, it keeps getting brought up about Snowden's death, and it's not until the very end, the end of the book, that you get like the entire story. But I just think it's interesting how the narrative like circles it, and you get a little bit more every time. I feel like they didn't... Okay, the one question I have is, like, at what point Yossarian started wearing his uniform again? Because part of the thing with Snowden's death is after that he refuses to wear his uniform, and he goes around naked for, like, a good week, and I'm like, at what point did he, like, start wearing clothes again? But anyway, it's, like, that's kind of... It's ridiculous, but, yeah, I don't know, there's just some really, really disturbing shit in this book, too. And, parts that made me laugh. And then there were also parts where I was like, I think this is supposed to be funny, but, like, it's not funny. It's not working. But, I am done with it. In preparation for going on vacation, I'm trying to finish a couple of books before I leave. And this was one of them, so I did that, and now I guess you get to find out if I finish the other one. Alright, I'll try to keep this quick and kind of quiet because it's late, but I finished Babylon's Ashes, which is book 6 of The Expanse. Holy shit. I did this in 5 days. I am exhausted. Okay, for me that's fast for a book this big. But now I don't have to bring it with me on vacation. It's huge, so I don't want to do that. Okay. Anyway, I really liked this a lot. I feel like there's not too much I can say about it because I don't necessarily want to have to explain like the plot of the other 5 books. But a huge thing happened near the end of book 5, and book 6 is largely a reaction to that. And it ends with kind of a new setup of like, here's how we are going to move forward and make sort of the galaxy of where humans can go work in a slightly different way. And I'm so pumped for book 7, holy shit. Okay, so I guess my only real criticism of this book is that because it feels a little scattered, but by the end it all comes together. But like, all the books up to this point have had 2, 3, or 4 narrators, and you just kind of switch between them as the book goes on. But this book has several narrators where you do that. But then also it has a bunch of narrators where you just have like 2 chapters from their perspective, or only 1, or like just like occasionally. I mean, all of my favorites were back. Basically everybody is in this book, including characters I wasn't expecting to see again. Well, I guess not everybody. Nobody from that Earth, that colony world from book, fuck, what was that, book 3? I guess it was book 3. God, I don't know. Maybe it was book 4. Whatever, I don't know. It doesn't matter. The point is that, practically everybody is in this book, and gets at least one chapter, and gets to do a bunch of stuff, and I really liked it, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. There's not a ton more to say about it. I was really happy to see a bunch of characters that, like I said, I thought we wouldn't see again, and also to see the characters that I assumed we would see again. And I thought all the stuff that they did with Philippe was interesting, and with Michio Pa, especially her. I liked that she just has this like a group marriage. It's wonderful. We need more of those. And that we got to meet Holden's collective eight, I think, parents, briefly, and that was cool, and I liked it a lot. I think that's all I'll say for now. I'm really excited to read book 7 when I get there, but for now, I'm going to go and read some other stuff first, so. Hello, I am back from my long vacation, and I finished 2 books while I was on it, so it's time to talk about them. Number 1, 3 Moments of an Explosion by China Mayville. So this is a collection of short stories, which I finished like a week ago, so I don't maybe remember it as well as I could. But I love China Mayville. He's one of my favorite authors, and I'm like trying to read all his stuff, and the library had this, and I think it's the only book of his the library has that I hadn't read yet. So I checked it out. I liked it. I mean, it's China Mayville. I liked it. I think his style works better for me usually on longer books. But some of these stories I really enjoyed. I liked the one about the oil rigs that had sunk or whatever, like crawling out of the ocean to lay eggs. That was fucking weird. Sorry, I'm looking for the list of names to remind myself. Oh boy. Oh, Sakin, which was like a horror short story about these 2 women who go to spend a month in like a small town in Germany, and then this like awful, horrible thing starts stalking the one woman, and and then the other like gets killed, and it all ties into this like frankly barbaric way of executing people, and it's, I don't know, it was really interesting. I struggled with exactly, so I mean, okay, this is China Mayville, so his stuff is weird and it's kind of gross, and it's like fantasy and horror, and just it's surreal. At first I was gonna just say, well, maybe it's kind of sci-fi, but it's not sci-fi. Like, some of his books are, but this is definitely, like, none of these stories that I can recall were at all what I would call science fiction. So yeah, it's like horror, fantasy, surrealism. There's just, like, strange, mysterious, awful things happening, and they're fun. I really enjoyed it. So that's kind of all I have to say about that one. I'm, really, it's been ages since I've read one of his books, so this, like, tided me over for a bit, but I'm still, like, I need one of his novels, like, soon, so. Okay, and the second book, The River of Consciousness by Oliver Sacks. Oliver Sacks is another one of my favorites. This is only I guess the 4th book of his I've read, so yeah, that's a fair number, but, like, I think I read Awakenings, and I definitely read The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, and, An Anthropologist on Mars. Okay, but this is a little bit different. The River of Consciousness is a series of, each chapter is basically an essay on different subjects that he thought were interesting. A lot of Oliver Sacks's books are case studies, case histories of patients that he's worked with throughout the years who have intriguing neurological problems. And then he'll, like, go into, like, how this affects their life and their perception of things, and then he'll start talking about, like, the implications for how everybody, like, how our brains perceive color or time or whatever. And his books are so good. Okay, you've probably heard of him, big deal. Okay, well, anyway, River of Consciousness was, I guess, the last book he was sort of planning on publishing when he died. In 2015, I think he died. And it's good. Yeah, I mean, I think I prefer his books that really get into, like, as I said, the case histories. This one is a lot more about, like, more general things, I guess. I mean, I liked it a lot, but I don't know that I'm going to be remembering stuff from it years from now in the same way that I do with some of the other stuff. Like, there's this chapter in, I think it was An Anthropologist from Mars, where he talks about this man who was blind since the age of 7 and regained some of his sight after he got cataracts removed as, like, middle-aged, and how difficult that transition was into seeing because his brain wasn't used to interpreting visual data, and, like, it actually made things a lot harder for him getting around. So, like, that was really interesting. This stuff maybe not quite as really interesting to me, but I did like it. And it's sort of, it's sad. I mean, one part of it especially was sad to read because he's talking about, like, homeostasis, and he goes into talking about how he's got metastatic liver cancer, and basically he's just talking about it because he's talking about, like, how awful he felt when he was going through this one treatment, and it's sort of like, oh man, because this is what ended up killing him later the year that he wrote that, so it's like, ugh, I'm so depressed. But Oliver Sacks, like, seems like he was so smart and interesting and just, like, a great person, and I would say that if you've never read anything by him, you totally should. I don't know if I would start with this one, but maybe. I mean, it's simpler, it's less, like, really digging into some complex science stuff, and it's not terribly long, but I liked it. I'm glad I bought it, and I want to read more of his stuff soon.